All right, welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Carol Clark, and today we are going to be talking about my pocket therapist. And this is part 2 of a 2-part workshop series where I'm talking about my book, my newest book, My Pocket Therapist 12 Tools for Living in Connection. And so for those of you who missed part 1, it's on YouTube, and you can just search for Dr. Carol Clark, My Pocket Therapist. I hope that will come up. And or you can email me at counselor@drcarolclark.com, and I'll be happy to share anything with you. So a little about me real quick is, as soon as I get my, sorry, there we go. This is practical exercises and tools to build on therapy and use daily to live in connection and recovery. And these are applicable to anyone, whether or not they identify as an addict, whether or not they identify as any particular type of addict. These are just good exercises to live in connection. So I'm Dr. Carol Clark. I'm the author of Addict America, The Lost Connection, which describes addiction as an overall condition that's not about any one particular drug or behavior, but a condition that most of us, especially here in America, live in all the time. My Pocket Therapist, which we're talking about today, I'm the president and owner and director of the International Institute of Clinical Sexology, which offers a Ph.D. in clinical sexology. The Therapist Certification Association, Therapy Certification Training, which offers certifications in a variety of subjects, including sex therapy, addictions, hypnotherapy, kink therapy, transgender therapy, and sex offender therapy. And that includes the International Transgender Certification Association. And of course, you know, I'm very proud of my bug, Ozafra Caroli, from a past life. So these tools we went over previously, and we're now ready to jump to, we did limbic resonance, and now we're going to continue with the calming the caveman brain. So y'all know I talk about the caveman brain being the limbic system, where emotions are, our survival brain is, and when that's activated, it needs to be calm in order for our prefrontal cortex to work, because the survival brain wants to shut down the thinking brain so it can just react and save our lives. But what happens in our modern world quite often is that limbic system gets activated and it becomes very stressed, anxious, and shuts down the ability to think. And so in order to think, to make decisions, to say, I want to be connected instead of living in fear and pushing everyone away, there are some simple exercises we can do to help the limbic system do that. And so we're continuing with that today. And in part 1, we talked about exercises that you can do by yourself. So now we're talking about exercises that you can do with another person. And so heart hugs. Heart hugs are great. Heart hugs, heart to heart. So chest to chest, full on hug. Don't be rubbing. You know, sometimes you go and give somebody a hug and there's all this motion and rubbing their back and petting their hair and talking. No, stop all of that. Just a nice hug, heart to heart. Just hold it. And then you will notice for both people, the person who's agitated, but the other person will just have an opportunity to calm down. You'll notice your breathing will downregulate, your thoughts will calm, your heart rate slows. And it's a great exercise to do when you're ready to get in a fight, when you're agitated about something you just heard on the news, whatever's happening that gets you excited and you just need to calm down. So when you have a partner and can tell them about this on the front end, and you can practice this once or twice, then all you need to do is say heart hug, and your partner will just be right there and know to just hold you, not talk. And it's a great gift you can give each other. Tool number 6, changing cognitions. So cognitions are what we think. And what we think leads to how we feel and how we behave. So some of the tools for changing cognition, some of the exercises are just say the Serenity Prayer. Now the Serenity Prayer comes from the addiction world, from AA originally. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And within this is just a realm of wisdom and can guide all of our behavior. Because think about what stresses us out, what interferes with our connections. It's trying to change someone, trying to change something that we can't change. So how many times, even if you're a therapist, I think most of you are therapists, but for anybody, therapists, you might have a client that comes in and they're saying, I'm just so stressed. And they start telling you why they're stressed. And they're stressed about their job. They're stressed about COVID. They're stressed about any number of things. And you're a human being. You're sitting there saying, yeah, I'm stressed too. Or I would be stressed if I was going through what you're going through. We don't want to fall into that trap. Instead, think about it in terms of we create our own stress. And especially if we identify as addicts and recognize that addiction cycle, then it's even more powerful. We create our own stress. Why would we do that? Well, because stress is addictive. Anger is addictive. Somebody gets angry and say, well, of course I'm angry. Who wouldn't be angry? Well, somebody who's choosing not to be angry because that anger is starting to get in the way of what they're doing in their lives. It's starting to interfere with things in their lives. So think about our definition of addiction: obsessive, compulsive, out of control behavior done in spite of negative consequences, self or others. So if my anger or my stress is becoming something I can't control, it feels very out of control and it's really interfering with my life, it's causing me negative consequences or negative consequences to people around me. Okay, but that stress or anger can give our brains that jolt. It's like getting high. And if you don't like the language of addiction, that's fine. But it's still, when you think about it, it can fit that model. And so this conceptualization of where does anger or stress come from? It comes from trying to change something we can't control. So maybe I'm broke. Maybe I'm living in COVID times and I've lost my job and I can't pay my rent. And I have the landlord who still wants the rent and is going to throw me out and I can't afford food. And there's all these things that we can say, well, of course you're stressed. And is that stress putting money in your pocket? Is it paying the rent? Is it putting food on the table? No, it is not. All it's doing is negatively impacting yourself and the people around you. So it's a choice. Now, how do we get to that choice? Well, calming that autonomic nervous system that is so full of the fear, anxiety, and anger. And so we can use these exercises, those other exercises, to calm down. Oh my goodness, the slides aren't showing? Good grief. Okay, well, there goes that video, huh? Let me start sharing it. Thank you for pointing that out. I swear this new thing is so annoying. But thanks, I'm sorry I wasn't looking at that, but at least you've been listening to me. Okay, how about now? Somebody chat to me now. Let me open my chat window. Are the slides showing now, boys and girls? Now it shows. God. So this is one of those things where I could become very agitated and fearful, like, oh, everybody's going to think I'm an idiot. Or I can say, you know what? I controlled what I could control. Yes, tool number 6, the Serenity Prayer, right? So I can control what I can control. I've done that. Move on. Keep giving you my energy, my positive energy, instead of, this is an opportunity I can be all consumed with myself, or I can get back to focusing on you, making this a teaching moment, as all you who are teachers and therapists, we make everything therapeutic, right? Okay, so now you can see the slide. The slide before that simply had 2 people a picture of people hugging. And this one is, has the Serenity Prayer, so you can look at that. Wonderful. Hopefully when I change it, you'll see the next slide, and that will work. So, Serenity Prayer is accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can. So that's looking at myself. What can I change? And certainly I can change my approach to stress, anger, fear by using some of these other tools. There you go. And the wisdom to know the difference. All right, so as we're changing our cognitions, this is just bringing thoughtfulness into what we do. And it's hard to do it in the moment. So this takes planning. It really takes planning. If you're stressed a lot, though, if you know you're getting stressed at work, then go into work situations with the intention of looking at what can I control, what can I control, rather than wait until you're in the moment of, okay? Okay, you all see the so what? Please tell me you can see so what. Can we see it? Yes, yes, yes. So, yes, yay, okay. So what? So here's something I think is very powerful, because sometimes changing cognitions, changing the way we think about ourselves or a situation, we get into a fight. We're banging heads. So you might be saying, oh, I'm so stupid. And then you start arguing with yourself. No, you're not stupid. Yes, I'm stupid. No, I'm not. Oh my goodness. Now we're providing the stress and stimulation to the limbic system that it actually gets off on. And in my world, it can be addictive. In your world, it can be whatever it is. So it just becomes a heightened state of being and puts you on the addiction side of the fence instead of recovery. So instead, let's step out of the fight. Fighting is not good. So wherever you stand on this, fighting's not good, right? So what? So what? I'm stupid. There you go. I'm stupid. Whatever. And we know I'm not stupid. You know you're not stupid. And we just can still do stupid things, usually because we're not thinking, often because of that limbic system activation. Okay? So when we step out of that argument and just say, so what? So what? And turn your attention outwards. Okay? I made a mistake with the slides. You couldn't see the screen. So what? I dealt with it as soon as you let me know. We're moving on. My attention is now back on you. So whatever's happening where you get that turned inward place, because I'm all about connection, right? So when you're starting to turn inwards, you're disconnecting. We want to turn our energy outwards. So I want to turn my energy to you, whether I'm teaching a class, whether I'm with a client, whether I'm with my partner, with my friends. I don't want to get all caught up in the fighting myself and turned inwards. So what? I did this. I'm sorry. And let's talk about you. Let's do what's at hand. Okay? My bad words. Oh my goodness, I love my bad words. Words are so powerful. Just changing these 3 words that are coming up is so powerful. So should is my #1 bad word. Now, we never want to take something away without replacing it with something. Any kind of behavior, nature abhors a vacuum. So if we take something away, we need to replace it. So let's take away the should and replace it with want, would like, or wish. Now, should is an external controller. That's why we're getting rid of it. And some of you might say, well, there's some things we should do. Why? Where did that come from? Who told you so? If you think, well, I should be an honest person. Okay, that's still a choice. You don't have to be. There's no should. Should puts things into a right, wrong, black or white place and leaves no room for disagreement, for thought, for anything, for opinions. Okay, and this is why we disconnect, because we start telling other people what they should do, or we get upset with ourselves because we're telling ourselves what we should do. So when we move out of that all or nothing place, that concrete place, to want, would like, or wish. Then we can move out of guilt and resentment. Guilt and resentment, when as soon as somebody says, I feel so guilty, what's the should? Let's identify the should. Well, I feel so guilty. I should have, you know, gone to my friend's party for their kid. And well, let's change that to want or would like. Well, or wish, because we're talking in the past. I wish I had gone to the party and I didn't want to. Okay, so I should go to the party. Well, I would like to go to the party. Is that true? No, it's not totally true. I would like to go because of this, this, and this. I don't want to go because of this, this, and this. Now I get to choose. Nobody outside of myself is telling me what to do. So there's no resentment. I don't have to feel guilty because it's my choice. I get to make that choice. So should, and it's the same thing. Somebody, and here's a great tip for you. If somebody says to you, well, you should, whether it's a boss or a partner or whoever, you should do this. You should exercise every day. You feel the, you know, you pull back, you disconnect. All you need to do is say to that person, and we have a power and control struggle there too, because the person telling you what you should do is saying they have power and control. They know best. To equalize this interaction, just say, so you would like me to exercise every day. Just equalized it, no fight, because you see how otherwise you get into a fight. So now you don't have to get in a fight. So you would like me to exercise every day. And the other person will probably say, well, yeah, da, 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 and they'll give you the rationale. And then, but there's no guilt or resentment. So we got, is wishing you did or didn't do something another should or guilt-driven thought. If you say should, it's going to be, you're going to feel guilty. When you change the should to wish, you don't have to feel guilty. Okay? So people feel guilty when, oh, I should have done this. I should have done this. How could I be so stupid? We already know what that's about. I wish I had done this. And I made a decision at the time that seemed like the best decision. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I was drunk. Maybe I was in a different place. Maybe, you know, and I wish I'd done something different. And moving forward, I will make different decisions. And I can't move backwards. I can only move forward. You see? So there's a huge power in just changing that one word. Does that make sense? That was one of the questions on the chat. So whenever anybody is expressing guilt or resentment, here's an opportunity for you to say, where's the should? What are you saying should about? And then change it to want or would like or wish. And it's huge when you get in the habit of doing this on a regular basis, when you catch yourself, and you're going to be amazed at how many times you say should throughout the day and hear other people say it. And since I talk about it all the time, I hear it everywhere, and I'm really mindful not to say it. But write it on your forehead, no shoulds, okay? Put it on your phone, pop up, no shoulds. And try to practice changing it to want or would like or wish. Now our second bad word is why. Why, you say? Because unless you're asking, why is the sky blue? It's generally something that whatever you're asking why about is not really asking the question you want answered. It's not addressing your concern. So since we're talking about being connected and we're talking about trying, you know, not disconnecting, if you're working with a couple, say you're working with a heterosexual couple who are getting in fights, really stupid fights, and you'll find a lot of whys. Why didn't you do the dishes? Why didn't you call me when you were going to be late? Why? And that inevitably leads to a fight, doesn't it? Because now the other person gets defensive, then they're going to start defending, and then you're back and forth. Instead, you always want to replace it. What is your concern? And we don't want to say this snarky or sarcastic way. We want to really know. What is your concern? I want to answer your question. And what is your concern? Now, a lot of times, you know what the concern is. And then we can use an active listening response. For instance, you know, you sound really worried because you thought that I might have been in an accident. you know, or if we are working with addicts, you know, you sound really worried. You sound, not you are, you sound really worried because you were afraid I'd stopped at the bar on the way home. And now you can have a conversation about the actual issue, not get into a fight about why I didn't call you on the way home. And it answers the concern. So asking, what is your concern? And then for the person who might be saying why, this is a response to the why, but for the person who's asking why, that person could say, I was really worried that you stopped at the bar when you didn't call me on your way home and you were late. See, now we can jump right into communicating and connecting about the real issue, what's really going on. Okay, makes sense to everybody? My third word is but. But is one of those words, again, that kind of cancels out two different things. You know, I really like ice cream, but it makes me fat. Or, you know, it's just, it makes it either or. So when we replace it with and, you know, I really like your shirt and it would be nice in a different color. Whatever it is, I'm just coming up off the top of my head. Replace but with and. Try and use and. And is inclusive. Okay, and with more serious things than your shirt or ice cream, it can be really important. If you're talking to a partner, say and, so that we can be all inclusive and hold things, hold the gray areas. So just like should, it's not all black and white. It's really, everything is mostly gray. So I have this and this. Our brains like to categorize things as good or bad. This is what we're seeing in our country today with politics. It's left out all the shades of gray and room for individuals' opinions, and just, we are very polarized right now. And so when you think about it, there's a lot of shoulds, there's a lot of but, and that cognitive dissonance that comes with, I really like these things that this politician stands for, but I don't like these things. And now you're forced to put the politician in either a bad place or a good place. See, when you say and, now you have room to work with it. You know, I like this and I don't like this. And so we don't have to make the person good or bad. You know that when you're working with kids, you know, and the whole thing about scolding children is, you're a good child, but your behavior is bad. So don't say but, say and. All right. So now, tool number 7, practicing connection with others. So these are things that the first, we were looking at cognitions and things we're doing that still have to do with connection. These are just things you can do every day, and I guarantee you will feel good. So smile and say hello. I have noticed when I'm out jogging in the morning, walking the dogs, my goodness, everybody's cars have these dark windows. I don't even know who's driving them, and I have no idea what kind of cars my neighbors drive. So I just get in the habit of smiling at everybody and waving if I can. I don't know who you are. Maybe I do know who you are. Maybe you're smiling at me. Maybe you're not. I don't know. I have a choice though. I can choose to turn my energy outwards and connect, or I can choose to look away, to turn my energy inwards and totally ignore everyone that goes by. I choose to turn my energy outwards because that's something I can do. So there's back to our serenity prayer. What can I change? What can't I change? So whatever you're doing or anything, I have no control over that. I can control that I'm going to turn my energy outwards, smile, and say hello. If I see somebody, I'm going to say hello. So, hello. And now we all feel good. I mean, really, who can look at me? Who can look at this face and not smile? Types of intimacy. So 8 types of intimacy. These are things we can begin practicing. A lot of people talk about intimacy as if it's sex. And sex is one type of intimacy. Just one. One of the things I like to do as a sex therapist is help people reframe how they use sex, how they think about sex. And so when people come to me and say, we want our sex lives to be better, we want to get back something we lost, what I do is I'll reframe that and say, you know, when you're having sex in order to feel intimate and connected, it can often lead to a dead end. So how about let's work on being intimate and connected in all ways to really feel the connection. And then sex becomes one expression of intimacy. And so whatever you're doing, so if somebody has, you have a couple that one person has erectile dysfunction, and then it's all about the penis and the erection and intercourse, and you know what? Now you're saying, well, we can't be intimate unless things are just this way. They should work. The penis should be hard. Who says? How about let's step back and say, let's work on being intimate. Let's not even work, I don't even like that term, but let's be intimate. Let's play with intimacy. Let's connect, do all these other things for connection, so that then whatever we do sexually, anything that makes us feel good. And we have a saying, of course, in sex therapy, that everyone's responsible for their own orgasm. So whatever you do sexually is an expression of intimacy and connection. It's just being with the other person in a sexual way. So working towards, can't get away from that word work, working towards other types of intimacy, look at this: aesthetic, affectional, emotional, intellectual, physical or recreational, social, and spiritual. This is an assignment you can give yourselves and give your clients to look at what are we doing, what are we already doing to connect in these different areas, and then what can we do to do more of that, so that we're just increasing how much we feel connected. And then when we're together sexually, it doesn't matter what we do or how we do it. There's no shoulds. There's no shoulds. We get rid of them all because we're just being intimate. So this was a shout out to Dr. Marilyn Volker, who first turned me on to this in my first sex class with her back in 1991. Oh my goodness. And there you go. So communicating from your adult brain. So this is more cognitive stuff, but the cognition is being aware of what's going on in the limbic system. So a lot of you may recognize this from transactional analysis. So the P stands for parent, A is for adult, C is for child. When we're communicating adult to adult, we're communicating from our prefrontal cortex, our enlightened brain. And then we're generally logical, making sense, able to listen to each other. We're having an adult conversation. And people often go astray and get into fights and get into conflict and push each other away, disconnect, because they get into these patterns of communicating from a child and parent place. And you'll often hear couples talk about, well, if he would just treat me like an adult, I wouldn't have to, I wouldn't act like a child, or vice versa. Right? And now think about, what does that link to? If this person would just, okay? There's our serenity prayer. It takes us back to serenity prayer. We can't control how the other person treats us and where they're coming from in their interactions with us. What we can do is take responsibility for ourselves. So there's a real blaming there. And there's a real getting away from our own identities. And that's one of the things I always ask people to do, is start to create your own identity. Start to like do a vision board and figure out, who are you? What kind of person are you? So what's your identity? What's your identity? And don't let anyone else control that. So if my identity is, I want to be a thoughtful, compassionate person, then I'm not going to behave in a less than thoughtful or less than compassionate way. I'm going to try not to. And if I do, I'm certainly not going to blame it on the people around me. I'm going to take responsibility myself. So we're kind of walking through the world from that place of who we are, where we are. And so that one of the simple things here is if you're working or if you're a person that falls into this and you're communicating a lot from a parent or child place, you can choose to communicate from an adult place even when the other person is still in a parent or child place. They may then respond from an adult place, but we're not doing it in order to make them do that. So differentiate between them. I'm doing it because that's where I want to be. Now, if you respond in kind, okay. If you don't, I'm still going to be an adult and communicate with you as an adult. Any thoughts, feelings, questions? So here is strengthening the enlightened brain. The enlightened brain is what I call the prefrontal cortex. This comes from, there's the tree of life, the circles that are all about connection, connections within larger connections. I created that, by the way. So here's strengthen our spiritual connection, which is the enlightened brain, about the enlightened brain strengthening our ability to think, to decide who we want to be, how we want to be. So floating out the riptide. These are things, these are just some simple exercises when you start getting crazy. Float out the riptide. So anybody here in Florida knows about riptides. And what do you not do with a riptide? So a riptide, for anybody who doesn't know, is when the surface of the water looks smooth, or it might look like it's coming into shore. Maybe it looks like the water's coming into shore, but underneath the tide is going out. It's because the wind is blowing usually, and it makes ripples on the surface of the water. So what's deceptive is underneath the current is flowing out. The tide is going out and it's really strong, and you can't see that from the surface. And so you go out swimming, and the next thing you know, you get caught up in this riptide and you're getting swept out to sea. And if you fight against it, there's that fighting again. You're fighting against something. You're not stronger than the ocean. I don't care who you are. You're not stronger than the ocean. So stop fighting it. Okay? Just float. What you do is you float on the surface because you have that little bit of water above the current that's where the wind is blowing, that's not moving like underneath. So you float on that, and you just, you know, put your arms out and go parallel to the shore. You just kind of move your hands. You don't fight it. You just go parallel, move your hands so you're on the surface. And then when you float out of that current, because it's not the entire coastline that's all, it's the currents are stronger in certain places. So you will move out of that current and you'll feel that, and then you'll be able to then swim to shore. So it's stepping out of the fight. It's another way of just, it's a visualization you can use to just be floating there until it's past. And this is helpful for anyone who's in addiction and they're experiencing cravings and urges for whatever your drug of choice is. You're experiencing that horrible thing and I'm fighting. Don't fight. Float out of it. Just float out of it. That's a simple tool. Appreciation. I have another video, so you can always look that up, but it's about putting your hands together. It's giving appreciation to the universe, whatever your higher power is, the universal life force, whatever it is. We want to give thanks for what we've gotten. That's the appreciation of receiving all the gifts that we receive. So I do standing facing my, like, I feel the force strongly when I face kind of southwest a little bit. And sometimes I'll have a, like a totem, or, you know, I have a Ganesha up my tree that I can face just to give it some, you know, gravity. And you face it and you cup your hands and you breathe in that gratitude and thankfulness, appreciation for what you've been giving. And so you can kind of scoop that up and bring it into your soul. And then after you've done that, now we're going to thank the universe for what we're able to give. And we scoop that up from our inside. I know you can't see me, but you're scooping it up from inside yourself, from your belly. And you bring it up and then you breathe it out. And that's what we're able to give. And as therapists, we're able to give so much. And as other people, we're able to give. Think about what you have to give, the gifts you have to give, and be grateful for that, because giving feels good, doesn't it? It's connecting. So what we've been given allows us to give, and that's very connecting. It's very connecting. So do that every day. These things that you do every day, it puts you in the vibrational space of having a good day. It's that simple. When you do anything, when you simply say, today, I'm going to have a good day. That's all you need to do. You will have a good day. Thought stopping. When you have those nights where you're trying to sleep and your thoughts are just racing, racing, racing. Any other time, we just need to move out of those racing thoughts. These are some things that you can do. I say the Lord's Prayer because it's something that I've memorized. You want to have something, you have to have it down cold. So you can just say it. And we also want to say it with intention. And so I have an article somewhere. It's on drcarolclark.com. There's a ton of articles there if anybody's interested in hearing more from me. There's an article there, might even be called the Lord's Prayer. What I do, because I'm not into God being a bearded man who is up in heaven, I'm more, being part of the universe, that we are all part of God, that we are all, but we separate. There's our disconnection, is we are all connected vibrationally, spiritually, energetically. And we disconnect, and that's what causes us problems, is when we put up these barriers because we're fearful. And so we disconnect from each other and from that universal force. And so I kind of go through this whole way of thinking about the Lord's Prayer, and I keep changing. And it gives me something to do with my brain as I'm doing it. So, our Father who art in heaven, I change to our higher power who's in that ideal place that is beyond just my own narrow little world. So I can do all these mental machinations to make it with me. When I've done that a couple of times, the racing thoughts have stopped. I'm in a calmer place, and then I can drift off to sleep. But you can do this with anything. So I have in my book, Intention for a Good Day. So that's a little prayer, mantra, whatever you want to call it, that I created. You can have a favorite song, a favorite poem. Come up with something that you can it'll move your thoughts. We want to move. We don't want to fight. You're in there slugging in the ring, slugging it out with Muhammad Ali. He's going to beat you. Even at the end of his life, he would have beaten the crap out of you. Okay? So you don't stay in the ring. Keep slugging it out. You get out of the ring. You turn your attention somewhere else. Daily prayers. And again, it doesn't matter what your relationship is with a higher power, what you call your higher power. It's just having a sense that there's something greater than yourself and that encompasses you. It encompasses all of us. And so we have the serenity prayer, prayer of connection. That's something in my book, Intention for a Good Day, the gratitude. These are all things that when we do them every day, when we make it a ritual, we're putting ourselves on this path for the day, for our lives, of how we want to be. We get to choose how we want to be. Instead of feeling controlled by all the craziness that can be around us, we can have control of ourselves. Somebody shoot me a chat text just so I know you're out there. If you would be so kind. Thank you. And finally, we have number 12, tool number 12, be like Sammy. Sammy was my Cocker Spaniel. And Sammy was just adorable. So she was my dog. And by the way, shout out to, I came out with this. First, I came out with the Be Like Sammy in my book, Addict America, The Lost Connection. And I put Be Like Sammy at the end. I really like that idea. Dogs are just so unconditionally loving. They're just, oh, they're always there for you. They're the sweetest things. And they just have this wisdom. And then that was back in 2011 when I published that book. And just last year, I read a book by Dave Barry. He wrote a whole book in his wonderful style about his dog, Lucy. And the whole book was about lessons from Lucy or something like that. So I thought, great minds think alike. But here we go. So when you need that extra bit of inspiration of how to be, look around, think about, you can think about Sammy, you can think about your dog. So this is connection made simple. So there's Sammy looking up as my husband was giving her a treat. And basically it's enjoy everything. So whether it's a treat, whether it's a ride in the car, oh gosh, she loved the car. She loved the car. Don't you love dogs? You love the car. They just get so much joy out of just riding around the car. So enjoy everything. Dogs love everything. Ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. How many of us know I got to do it myself? Finger energy out. Think about when someone asks you for help. Don't you want to give it? And certainly if you're a therapist, I would hope so. I mean, we can have boundaries, but for the most part, we like helping people. And so it's a gift to someone else when we ask them for help. Now, again, within reason, we have to have boundaries. Don't ask me to help paint your house. No. Here, I'll give you money. Go hire a painter. But there's a lot of things. Ask me for my time. Ask me for to help you with something that we can bond together. Ask me for a lot of things. I'll help you. It's not painting your house. So Sammy would ask for help. She gets up. You can see she's kind of short. She's jumping up on the edge of the van there. But she was towards the end of her life. She could no longer just bounce into the van like she did when she was younger. She had to ask for help. So she'd get up there and then she'd wait. And then we'd come behind her and boost her up. So love and expect to be loved. Oh, I'm going to get choked up looking at Sammy. She passed on. She passed on quite a few years ago. But look at that face. Love and expect to be loved. How many times do you hold yourself back because you're afraid of being rejected? You're afraid of being judged. And so you disconnect. And we do this with strangers. We do it with people, acquaintances. We do it with friends. We even do it with our beloved partners. We hold back. And when you're holding back, you can't connect. So the secret here is to love. Just love. Expect to be loved because there's an energy, there's a vibrational exchange there that when I expect to be loved, when I reach out to you, you're going to love me back. And if we're not loving each other, we like each other, or at least there's a connection. So when you start moving through the world from a place of, I really like you. I'm here with you. Aren't we having a great time? So right now, hey, everybody out there, I don't even know who's out, how many of you are out there, but I like you. And we're having a good time together. Notice how that feels. So love and expect to be loved. Don't hold back. And that's Sammy. So here's me. Here's my here's my information, my email, my phone number, a little bit about me. And what I'm going to do now is don't go away.